When life knocks you down, who do you look up to? Or more specifically, what do you look up to? Well, in today's world there's many religions, but they're all centered around one topic. And that topic is God. But not only God, some people even look up to their phone and all electronic. Growing up as a Christian, I read the Bible and I felt God's power and love surrounded me. But many of y'all out there heard about God or will hear about God at least once in your life. So, as we journey learning about God, we will discuss the definition of God, the Bible, the beginning of creation, Jesus, and God's covenant with his people. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary says, God means supreme or ultimately reality. The deeper meaning of that means he's being perfect with his wisdom, his power, and God's goodness. As stated in Genesis 1, God's other name is Yahweh. Speaking of the Bible, Biblica.com states, the Bible wasn't written in one place or one time, and it was also written over a span of 3,500 years. The Bible was inspired by God, written by ordinary people of the day. The Bible is split in between two sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament came before, when God was ruling over the world. The New Testament came when God sent his only Son, Jesus Christ. The Bible has 66 books that was written over a long period of time. And so, now since we learned about a little bit about God and a little bit about the Bible, let's talk about creation. Genesis 1:1 states that God created the heavens and the earth. Over the next 7 days, God then filled the earth with all the stuff we need for the world. Genesis 1:27 states, let us make human beings in our own image. Then God took the man, and he made man, and out of that man he took his rib and formed the dust clouds and made a woman. So the man isn't lonely, and later on the man was joined to his wife by the name of Eve. God then placed trees that bared fruit and was full of fruit in the Garden of Eden. But God did place a bad tree in there. That was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. John MacArthur states, God created a perfect universe. But we all know the universe ain't perfect. But there is a reason from that. Adam and Eve chose to eat from a bad tree, which then introduced sin into our world. So, with all the sin in the world, God knew there was a need for a Savior. He then sent his one and only Son, Jesus Christ. Matthew 1 shows how Jesus came to. Jesus' mother was Mary, and she was a virgin. His father was Joseph. Well, one night, Mary became pregnant as a virgin, and that would raise concerns in his father Joseph. But Joseph one night had a dream from an angel that told him to name his son Jesus, which will save people from their sin. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, but like every other person, people was claiming him that he was going to be the new Messiah. So the king wanted to find him and kill him. Jesus, throughout his life, he preached to many people and performed many miracles to bring them to come to God. But, like everything else in the world, people didn't believe him. So they offered to crucify him or Barabbas, which was a very bad person and was in a prison. But somehow they convinced that Jesus was worse than Barabbas, so they chose to crucify Jesus next to two other prisoners. Well, after all of them died, they buried Jesus in the tomb, and 3 days later he rose again. And so, comes all that of the Bible is the 5 covenants. The 5 covenants. A covenant is a relationship. BibleProject.com states, a covenant is a relationship between two partners who promise to work to reach a certain goal. So, the first covenant was with Noah. God promised to never flood the earth again. And the second covenant was with Abraham. This covenant said that man had to be circumcised to remind us that it ain't in our hand, instead it's in God's hand. The third covenant is Moses and the people of Israel. This covenant told us to follow the Mosaic law, which is the Ten Commandments. The fourth covenant came with David. This covenant promised David a descendant who will reign over the people of God. And the last and final covenant is for all people. He will send a Savior who will come down, and he who will believe will be forgiven. So, now that we walked through the journey of the life of God, we went over the definition of God, the Bible, creation, Jesus, God's covenant with his people. So, through all my life, you can't ever really just learn from God, just learn it throughout paper. So, sometimes you got to experience his love itself fourthhand. So, whenever you leave this thing, just bow your head and pray, and just feel God's presence over you.